All right. Before we go any further, welcome to TTIN, and TTIN is sponsored today by Echoes of Africa. Echo of Africa is a nonprofit that caters to the rewriting of the narrative of Africa as a whole. And they are hoping, it's a nonprofit that's hoping to go into Africa and try to help reconstruct roads and build facilities that hold electricity and have after school activities for scholars from kindergarten to university. So, with no further ado, hello, this is TTIN. Welcome to TTIN. And I am Regina, and I am currently here with Jeremy. And how I met Jeremy is through Clubhouse, and I heard such amazing story about him from the host of the Clubhouse. So, with no further ado, I will have him introduce himself. Hello, Jeremy.
Hi. It was really nice meeting you. We got a chance to talk yesterday, 2 days ago.
It was yesterday.
Yesterday. This week's been great. But we got a chance to talk yesterday, and it was really nice meeting you for the first time. So it was easy for me to come on your podcast. And it's really cool that what you're doing with Echo as well. That's nice to hear.
If you can tell us, what is your now? Like who?
I just had this conversation last night, actually, with someone who's pretty important in my life. And we were talking about just our comfort levels, you know, the things that have changed, the things that we've learned over the past couple months. And the thing that I really learned was I don't have to be anybody for anything or be in a hurry or even have a plan sometimes. And I just feel like so many people, they want to know what's going to happen in their life. They want to have everything figured out. And a lot of times we rush, I feel like, towards those things. And I think what I realized after I had like 3 things fall through in basketball recently. I got drafted #1 overall into a league in Mexico. It fell through within a couple weeks. I went down to Brazil and had that fall through quickly, and things did not go very well down there. And then I had something happen in Indonesia that I was supposed to go to a couple months ago fall through as well because my agent wasn't in the right spot at the right time. So I feel like I was thrown a lot of different things at once in my career. And I was kind of working on my faith. And I feel like I just had so many things kind of going on at once. I was in a relationship that was really good. And I thought I just needed to be somebody at all times. Like I felt pressure from all sides to be really good in the Christian community and be really good at basketball and being a good boyfriend or all kinds of things. And when I finally took a breath by myself and I was kind of working with a few mentors at the same time, I realized that I had this huge desire to just be finished, be complete, and be this person that I was always trying to be and be proud of him and really push towards what was next. And I was missing a lot of things. I was missing a lot of things that were happening right in front of me, but the biggest thing that I was missing is that I was already doing good things for this planet, like with me, being me. And I said this in a room the other day when I was praying for somebody. I was like, just because I'm a Christian doesn't mean I don't say the F word. Doesn't mean I'm going to do exactly what I want to do. And I'm going to do it at my pace. And I'm not going to let anybody else dictate that. And that was when I was like, you know what? And that's when I was talking to my friend the other night. I was like, I'm in a really good place right now because I don't feel pressure to be anybody. So my now is just peace. And for like a couple weeks, I think 2.5 weeks, and that's probably been the longest prolonged peace I've felt in months. And so I think that's what I would say is my now is that I don't feel rushed to do anything or be anything, but I'm still focused so incredibly hard on what I'm trying to accomplish. So it's a good balance. I think you're muted, by the way.
Okay, that's good. And so you spoke about like how you encounter difficulties that led you to this time right now in peace. Can you talk about your difficulties, your challenge and difficulties that grew you through your now?
I think a lot of the challenge was just uncertainty. It's something that I have in my life naturally as I'm an athlete. I've been playing basketball for 8 years now, professionally and around the world. But there's, I mean, when you're in your off season, you never know what's going to happen. Like, legitimately, you get a phone call and you usually leave in like 3 days for another country. Like, it's like, hey, you're going to Mexico in 3 days. And while you're at it, go ahead and book the trip to Brazil. Make sure you book your bus tickets in Mexico, and then get yourself a couple Airbnbs. Then you're going to plan. It was right around Christmas time, so I was planning to go to Boise to see my family. I was planning to go to Canada. I had so many things going on at once, and I had to take a taxi. The most stressful part, which I didn't even know was stressful until I saw the video because I happened to be recording myself, is I was taking a taxi over the border at 5:30 in the morning to go into Mexico, and I had no idea like how this was even being set up. I had to haggle and like barter the price. I was like the only way to get over the border at that time, you couldn't do Uber. You had to take an actual taxi, and I had to use this like sign that was written in Sharpie in the back of like a Greyhound station. So these things that I've always done with different countries and different tours and things that I've been on, I pretty much know that I'm never going to be able to expect anything. I just don't. And you kind of just hope for the best. And there was just so much going on at once. And then I would just leave. I'd get another phone call and be like, hey, you're going to go here. Or maybe this is going to happen. Excuse me. And it just gets to you at some point, but what it does is it expanded my ability to handle stress in my life. And it made me take a stop and call people that were smarter than me, that have been alive longer than me, that are good mentors. And they took the time. Like, I spent hours with mentors in my life, asking them questions. And I realized that at the time, I thought I was a good coach, and I think I am. And I thought I was a good mentor and a good role model for a lot of people, but I feel like I skipped the part of just asking questions of people that have already been there until that moment. And so once I started asking, I realized the quote of "it takes a village sometimes to raise a person." And I really encourage people to be around mentors, be around people that are in a peaceful place, that have the fruit on their tree, even if it's just in one area that you want to work on. I really encourage people to spend time with somebody that has been there, because that's really what's helped me get out of those just difficult moments in my life.
That's great. That's great. And so you speak of you as you're an athlete and you're a basketball player.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you become a basketball player, and what has encouraged you to continue being a professional athlete?
I would say the thing that I decided a long time ago is I didn't want to regret anything. I played baseball until I was 23 and was down in California working a couple jobs, having fun. And I decided to go to a tryout up in Bakersfield for the D-League team, the NBA D-League at the time. And I remember being there, and I was okay. Like, I was pretty athletic, but my thoughts were, I don't ever want my kids someday, or I don't ever want people that I talk to, because I've kind of been mentoring people for a long time. I've been talking to people for years and just kind of helping them out. I never wanted to regret anything. I never wanted them, when they came up to me in my future and be like, hey, Dad, I'm really struggling with this, and I really want to try this. And it's like, my answer is always going to be the same. So, well, go do it. Oh, I don't know. I feel this. I don't care. Just go do it. You're going to regret it if you don't. And then I can tell them all these stories where I've put so much on the line and just kept trying, and then come back and fail and be embarrassed at times, and then come back and be like, okay, I'm going to keep putting in the work. I'd show up when I lived in Lithuania, I would go to my first practice by myself around 10 a.m., work out for an hour, hour and a half, come back to my room, take a nap, eat some lunch, and then go right back and go back to practice, which is usually like 1 to 3, come back to my room, relax, hang out for a little bit, and then go back at like 7 p.m. and spend another couple hours. It's like it's one thing to try something. It's another thing to really dedicate yourself towards something. And I think the thing that I see the most, even at like the pro ranks and college ranks and in people's businesses and Even when they're calling me just looking for advice, sometimes I feel like they're just looking for permission to try something that their family has told them that's not worth the time. And I see that all the time. I see someone being like, oh, I want to do this. I want to become an entrepreneur. I want to be an athlete. I want to do this. If you really did, you'd be willing to do the things that you've already probably heard. And sometimes they just need to hear it from somebody that they respect or someone that's going to challenge them, and not necessarily just their family. Because I know family members can be like, oh, honey, it's okay. You don't have to do this or you don't have to do that. No, I call BS on that. Like, do it, try it. If it fails, it fails. Nothing in this life is permanent. If you go try something, if you want to move to another place, or if you want to try a new job, who's to say that you can't come back or move somewhere else? Like I've lived in God knows how many states at this point, probably over 20 or 20 cities, different cities. Who's to say that you have to stay there? You can get a month-by-month lease or maybe a 3-month lease and do a trial period. Like, nothing is permanent. And that's why I don't set rules for myself. If I'm enjoying something, I continue doing it. And if it's something that's been a passion for a long time, I'm going to do anything possible to try and make it, because I don't ever want to look back and be like, oh, I should have done something different.
That is a great way to look at life, and it's very, very, very amazing that you are able to captivate that stance and be able to like cultivate it as well too. And so, how have your family impacted you throughout your growth?
Well, first off, I would say that nothing is perfect. So things that may sound good, look good, there's been plenty of moments along the way where I'm just like, I don't know why I'm doing this. Or is it really worth it? Or am I just spinning my wheels and I'm in the same place? And sometimes that's when your family comes along. And it was both of my brothers, actually, because I just gotten back from, I think it was Germany for the first time. And things just weren't happening. My agent didn't have anything for me. I was kind of just out in the front yard, and I missed my family. I missed just being home. I missed enjoying things, because there was a lot of stress that came along with the growth. If you're trying something that's new, I'm sure you know this. If you're trying something that's relatively new, and basketball kind of was, because I'd only been playing at that time for a couple years, 3 years, I think. It's hard. You're going to make more mistakes than you are going to be successful, especially in the early stages. You're going to embarrass yourself at times too. And both of my brothers, as I was standing out in the front yard at my uncle's house, were just like, don't do what I did. My brother kind of put the shovel down as we were kind of just working on the yard. He was like, I regret a lot of things about how I finished. And he's like, the only thing I'm going to tell you is just don't do what I did. Don't make the same mistake. My little brother had a little different approach. He was just like, don't be an effing pussy. He kind of wanted to go the tough love route. And I heard him both. And I remember standing there and be like, you guys don't understand. This is so hard. Like, I don't have a resume. I switched after playing Division I baseball. If I was playing baseball, it'd be so much easier. And he's just like, so what? And I really appreciate him for that, because I heard him. And I feel like that's what I was saying before, is sometimes you need someone in your life that respects you, but is willing to call you out. I think it's what a good friend does. I think it's what a good family member does, what a good coach does, what a good mentor does. It's when it's someone calling you out on your BS. Someone that's going to challenge you and love you at the same time. Because there's not two sides to that coin. If anything, someone who challenges you and tells you the truth is the person that loves you the most. So I'd say that was probably the first impact that they had. And the other one is, we went through something like just over 20 years ago, where my dad was in like a coma and paralyzed. And I'm not going to go into it on this podcast. I've told that story many times on Clubhouse and on other podcasts. But I'd say the learning lessons that you have from losing someone that means so much to you is my best friend. But the learning lessons that you have is, number one, I learned how to love people, because, he was paralyzed and in a coma. And so like, I could only love him, and he couldn't really give me love back. And I'm sorry for telling a short version of the story on here, but the other thing that I learned was, like, I had to constantly be there for myself. when your father's not there, your main role model, and someone that I really, really respected too. He didn't drink, didn't smoke, was a nice person, but you could tell he had so much poise, and you could tell he had so much respect for himself. And so he would stand up for himself. And when you don't have that compass in front of you, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. And I've made a lot, but I feel like the reason for that, or the nice part of that, maybe not the reason, is that since I had to make all those mistakes without necessarily a compass, that's why I feel like I've been able to talk to so many people and challenge so many people and love so many people at the same time while being difficult or challenging, which I think people need. So I'd probably say that those two things of my family life really adapted me to become the person that I am right now.
Okay, that is the way that her family can impact you, or rather it's through a difficult situation or a positive situation. The impact is really very, very impactful. And you speak of you trying to become a think in the past you were worried about being a good boyfriend and so forth. Can you tell us about how relationship wise you have like grown into being just at peace with the person that you are?
That's a good question. I'd say one of the main things that I realized from my last two relationships was that putting pressure on somebody else to be an all-around guidance, lover, friend, there's a pedestal that we can put people on from time to time, even if we don't mean to, and we're not really looking at the whole picture, and we're not able to challenge them and be there for them in the way that we actually should be. Because like I said, someone who's a friend or a boyfriend or someone like that is someone who wants the best for the other person at all times. And that includes, learning how to set standards and boundaries and find out what your desires, likes, wants are. And a lot of people skip that. A lot of people, I used to run a room on Clubhouse. It was like a giver's guide on receiving love, because I was always a giver, always. I didn't really know how to receive compliments, receive love, receive presents. I didn't even used to celebrate my birthday. So it's not just coming from just a boyfriend standpoint. It's coming from relationships in general, my friends and family, in learning how to hit the ball over and like a conversation and a text thread and waiting for them to come back. Okay, I'm not muted. Waiting for, in like a text thread, or even just, waiting for them and being patient with them. That takes a long time to learn, I feel like, or it takes a bad memory to learn that you need to be able to love yourself and have, I don't want to say it like that. You need to admire the things that you do, and you need to constantly challenge your thoughts on who you are and continuously improve. And if you don't have people that you're talking to, at some point you're just going to be stagnant. And when I think of a relationship, I think of growing together. I think of being a team. I think of really truly caring about one another. I feel like that can only happen when you're coming from a place of peace, because you're going to be present. So the one thing that I've really told people to do lately, or invited them to do, was use a conversive language with yourself in the morning. Being able to proceed through your rituals in the morning, whatever those might be, and then question yourself on certain things that happened the day before, happened the week before, maybe happened 15 years ago that you didn't quite look back on, and start to settle those and maybe write them down or ask yourself questions about them. Because if you're going to be a good friend or a good boyfriend or a girlfriend or whoever, you have to be present with people and pay attention, because they'll show you everything that you need to know. And then you have to have enough level of self-respect for yourself that they can feel that, because that's a big part of it. Self-respect, self-reflection, to where you're paying attention to how you're reacting and where you're going wrong and how you can fix it without judging yourself. For the love of God, I want people to stop judging themselves so much. And then being able to be there for them at the same time. So I'd probably say that about relationships in general, is it takes a lot of work and care and maintenance to make people feel special. I think actually that is the last thing I'll say. Not everyone gets the same treatment. Not everyone gets the same amount of my time. And the coolest thing that I got to do with the last relationship, and I don't know where this came from, but we were about 2.5 weeks in or something like that. And I finally just told her, I was like, she was asking me about, being in different places for 3 months at a time, 6 months at a time, how difficult that could be to create a nice, deep relationship, a connection. She goes, what are you going to do about that? And I was like, I'm doing it right now. She's like, what do you mean? I was like, I choose you. I was like, I choose to get to know you. I choose to ask you questions. I choose to spend time with you. And it was just really cool because I'd never done something like that before. I usually talk to 2 or 3 girls. There's Tinder, there's Bumble, there's internet, there's Clubhouse, there's Instagram. There's plenty of ways to talk to people. I just made a decision that I was going to cut off communication with anyone else that I was even relatively interested in. Because I was like, no, I want to try this. I want to choose somebody. And that was such a cool feeling. I really invite men especially to do this and try one freaking shoe at a time. And really allow that person to feel that you are present with them, but you'll be amazed at the presence they give you back. Because they can feel it. Then there's no insecurities at all. Sure, there's triggers and things that happen from people's past. And there's things that we think about just because of, like what I said, what's happened to us. But when they really know you're fully present and you've chosen them, not to marry them, I know you say, hey, you're not even my girlfriend. I didn't say that. It was just like, I just want to know. I want to know more about you, and I want to be there with you and enjoy this time. And that was so cool, and it was so special, and it was really natural too. Nothing felt forced at that point. So I really invite people to try that.
That is amazing. Audience take notes.
Oh God.
And it's really good. And you spoke about your faith rise. Can you touch base on how your faith had impacted your life so far?
Mm-hmm. I'd say it's been like a dance with God. I felt like, the divine God was kind of always with me. When as I was younger, I'd be laying in my bed, I'd be praying that my dad came home because he worked nights. And when he got hurt, man, I was pretty pissed. I felt like I was let down. I felt like my relationship with God was kind of tormented at that point because I was like, yo, how could you let this one thing happen that I prayed about every single night? The one thing. I didn't pray about anything else. I literally was just like, please let my friend come home. Please let my dad come home. And maybe I just knew. Maybe intuitively there was a part of me that just knew that something was going to happen at some point. I don't know. But I didn't really talk to God after that. I didn't really feel like I was driven to be like, okay, let me cultivate this relationship more. I was just like, yeah, the heck with you, which is ironic when you think about that out loud. But when I went overseas and I came back and I was going through all these experiences, there was always a lot of times where I was really thankful. My life was cool. I was in other countries. I was meeting other people. I was starting to speak on stages. I was starting to mentor people one-on-one. I was doing a podcast. I felt like I was becoming, like I said, slowly becoming this person I always wanted to be. And at the end of the night, I would talk and I'd be like, thank you. Thank you so much for everything. And I remember a friend asked me, this mom, actually, this basically second mom that I had, she's like, well, but who are you thankful to? I remember telling her, I was like, does it really matter? She's like, well, yeah, it kind of does. Like, are you thankful to God? Are you thankful to Jesus? And I was like, I'm just thankful. And so I felt like I was in a really good place. I was teaching people how to love each other. I was encouraging people to unite and encouraging people to be more respectful and to be like kind of a divine masculine where you're present with people, like I said, but like you hold your own, like you have a backbone. You're able to stand up for people, to people, and tell them challenging things that they might not want to hear. So it was a really nice balance. And then this year, I realized that I had mistakenly made a lot of things about me. I love the attention. I love being someone for somebody when I didn't really feel like I had that for me back when I was younger or even older. I didn't feel like I had that for myself. So I really, really was entertained by the idea of being this big famous person. And I still am, but it comes from a different place. I notice that when I'm singing or on stage or on Clubhouse, I'm no longer trying to speak to feel like the gratification, the validation of who I am. And I gave that to God. I gave it all to him. I gave the rest of it to Jesus. I just gave it away. I was like, I don't want this anymore. I don't want the responsibility of all that power completely on me. I don't want to remember certain things that have impacted me. I just package it up, put it in something and be like, here, you can take it. You can have it. I don't want it anymore. I don't want the burden of all the stress of having to be the guy. But I did realize in that moment, I can still be that person for people, but I don't have to take credit for it. I don't have to, even when I do something good in basketball, I don't have to make it about me. Or when someone else is speaking, and I know people do this, they could be talking about something else in their life and they're like, oh, is this person talking about me? And they take it personally, even though it has nothing to do with them. And I'd say my faith has probably done that for me the most. It's when someone is talking about something, a friend, a colleague, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, whatever, I don't take it personal at all because it hardly ever actually has to do with you. Hardly ever. A lot of times when a girl wants to talk, this is something I learned this year, they just want to freaking talk. It has nothing to do with you. It's just they have a lot of thoughts going through their head in that moment. They just want to talk. That's it. It's really simple. And it dawned on me at one point when I was in an argument. And I remember I stopped and I looked at her and I said, hold on. It's like, you do realize we're on the same team, right? No, I don't think so. I was like, well, we are. And I was like, okay. And now I'm starting to see this picture. I was like, I don't need you to be anything for me. Like, I don't need anything in this moment. We're on the same team. I want you to be really happy. And I'm sure for the most part, except for when you're upset, you want me to be happy as well. I made a little joke. And I realized that the whole storm subsided. And it was no longer an argument because I was like, okay, I get it now. Like, and I hadn't had a relationship in a long time. I just chose to focus on basketball. But I realized in that moment that with friends, girlfriend, even my mom, sometimes people just want to talk and they don't need you to do anything. There's nothing right. There's nothing wrong. It's just, they just want to talk. And certain people are wired that way. And so I feel like I've learned how to be this person that is, helpful and a good coach and a good mentor, but also just like, I don't need that though. I don't need to be right. I don't need to be anything. I don't. And that's kind of what I was saying with this peaceful moment, this peaceful time that I've had probably for the last few weeks. I don't need to do anything. I was already saved by grace. I don't have to do any work for that. And then I don't have to be anybody for anyone special ever, except for just be present and listen. They will tell you everything that you need to know about who they are and what they'd like to accomplish, what their dreams are, how they feel. And we're really put on this earth to connect with everyone. We're literally here to connect with anyone and everyone and to love them and appreciate them. And I feel like that's the biggest part of like the faith that I already had in me. But then as I started giving things to God and as I started seeing mentors in my life and realizing that it's not because of me, it's because of him, then I feel like I had this bit of clarity that was like, oh, I'm going to be okay. I don't have to be shit for anybody. I can just be me. Which includes swearing. Like I said, I'm just somebody who swears because I'm not going to be someone who's going to be like, oh, Father God this and Jesus this, which I respect those people. There's certain people that do that. I'm not that guy. And God already knows it's in my heart. So why would I try and fake and be somebody else when the person maybe that I can save is someone who speaks like that and they're not going to get tuned out by what I say.
That's really your journey is really eventful and full of discovery of things that you like and does not like, and you know about yourself here and there, and that you're able to learn through each encounters, and that could be through your family and through Christ and so forth. And where do you see yourself growing within the future to come? The future.
Oh, like my future?
Yeah.
I don't think about it too much. The one thing that I think sports has taught me is that when you have a dedicated practice that you discover every day, there's little changes that you're making, there's little mistakes that you're making. You kind of know that regardless of what happens, you're probably going to be pretty successful. It might not be in the avenue that you'd like. It might not be in the job that you thought it was going to be. Just thought I was going to be a professional baseball player. But as you kind of inquire with yourself of what do I see in my future? What do I envision? I really just the thing that I always looked for was peace. And what's interesting is that's kind of the first thing that people that are depressed, or the first thing that people have a little more anxiety. I feel like the first thing you need to look for is a little bit of peace within themselves. Because it's hard to see that second and third cliff if you're staring at the bottom of the rock and you're looking at it like, how the heck am I going to climb this? So I feel like that first little barrier, let's get to a place of peace. And at that place, and I used to do this with my clients, was get to this place and so you can see your future. You get to that, get to that first rock, get to that first vision point, or a vista point as they call it sometimes. Like, get to that first place so you can actually see that. And I feel like since I've been there for the majority of the last 2 years, I've been kind of getting to these places off and on. It's been sporadic. I've been able to see glimpses of a family at times. I've been able to see glimpses of being calm on the court and off the court, and speaking on stages, which I've already done a little bit, and having a good community of people around me that I've kind of taught how to be a coach. I've taught how to ask those difficult questions and be a mentor and be there for someone who just needs to talk. And so if I really look in the next 5 years, I'd probably say that I have a company with 10 to 15 other coaches or mentors or whatever they want to call themselves. And that's the beauty of it, is we all have the specificity that we need to have things make sense to us. It's like marketing. You can't really sell the book until you know what the title is, or even write the outline sometimes. But when I give people the freedom to find out who they truly are, then they can be a mentor for somebody else for all the things that they've already just healed or have understood maybe for a few years. It's really easy to help people with things that is fresh, that you just went through. I think that's what I see, is I see myself working with a lot of good people that I've kind of helped build themselves to a point where they can help somebody else. Because I know a lot of people want to do that, want to be fulfilled. And then in basketball, I actually see myself it's going to sound, I don't know how this will sound, but I made a decision last year that if I don't make a good amount of money, I'm probably just going to move on. I've always been in small leagues and fun leagues and overseas and making some money, some better in other places. But I always wanted it to be really fulfilling. I wanted to feel the 5,000 people around me just praying that I miss and praying that I suck that day because I'm trying to play against their team. And that just sounds fun. That sounds like an environment that I just want to put myself in and see, like, what is my real conditioning? What is the person that I've really become? Because after that, when you put yourself in stressful, anxious, fun, exciting opportunities like that, everything else is going to be relatively easy. And there's not really stress outside of that. The stress of being an athlete is enough to, when you look at the rest of life, you're like, it's not too hard. I'm not playing on an injured ankle in front of 5,000 people with $30,000 on the line with bonuses for your whole team to go to the playoffs. It's just amazing. It's a perfect way to challenge yourself and see who you really are. And one of the favorite things that I learned recently was from Wild at Heart. And it's a really good book that I recommend for people, especially men, because it's what it was written for originally. There's a women's version as well that his wife wrote. But men ask, do I have what it takes? It's just a question we ask ourselves all the time. Whether we know it or not, we're asking ourselves, do I have what it takes? And in the book, it says that women ask if they're desirable and if they're enough. And so it comes from a different place. But that question that you learn from sports of, do I have what it takes? You got to be able to block out so much to be able to play well in certain environments, including pain. So I'd say that I see myself in the future being able to handle so much because I've already had to. And I feel much mentally and spiritually, I feel a lot older than I really am, which is a good feeling. Because I feel more prepared. But I guess we'll see what happens.
Yes, that is magnificent. I mean, like, your future seems very, very bright, and there are going to be many obstacles that we all pass through life, and you will pass through them as well. But your outlook at it is right now. If you continue with this outlook, it will continue to like grow you through everything you do. And if you want to continue with like podcasting, because you say you have a podcast, am I right? Yeah, you have a podcast, and you also do live. You also like a life coach, something like that. Life coach.
I found out I call myself a consultant now because I realize I do a lot more talking than asking them questions. It's more of I figure out what's going on in their life, and then I just give them options. And a lot of times it's just permission to feel a different way about it. You know, it's funny, the word that I get the most from my friends, from my family, I lost my camera. The words that I get the most from when I asked people that I've mentored in my life, even before I had a business with it, I was like, well, what do I do? I was like, what's different about me than other people that you've asked questions to? And the big majority of them all said that you do the things that you're telling me to do. Because I'm trying them in my own life. I made a mockery out of my own life many, many times. And I feel like they all say the same thing. You just give me a different level of hope. And hope is a wicked, wicked drug to help you out. You know, it doesn't take very much for you to be like, okay, I can do this. So I feel like that's kind of what I do. I feel like I give a lot of people hope, which seems like a nice thing to me.
I agree. It's a drug that we should all take. And if you are giving out the drug of hope, then so be it. That's a great thing. It's a great thing to be a beaker of light, you know, beaker of light through inspiration and encouraging individuals to like, you know, embrace what it is that they are encountering in life and become a better individual of themselves.
Right. And then you balance it out with the realism too. So you balance it out with like the truth of when I look at myself in the mirror, I might feel that hope myself. But there's times where it's like, I might not deserve this. I might not deserve to feel the way that I feel. And is that the truth? So I ask myself that, and then I can ask my clients the same thing. Do you actually deserve to have the dreams that you look for right now? Are you actually the person where if I gave you this business that you want with 20 people that you're working with, are you going to be even close to being able to manage that mentally, stressfully, financially? If I give you the girlfriend of your dreams in the fantasy land that it lives in, or the boyfriend of your dreams, are you going to be able to handle that? Or are you going to fall apart? Because I've seen myself fall apart. So even with myself, it was like you have to have that dose of realism where you check things with someone who is a mentor or who will just listen and challenge you. So it comes with both. Definitely comes with both.
And that is phenomenal, you know, for you to like be that individual, you know, to do that. So does your business have a name?
I actually stopped doing it. It was just Jeremy Burright coaching or something simple like that. It was because for the most part, I'd start talking to someone and they didn't really care about the logistics or what my business was or how much it cost. They were just like, I just want to work with you. And I was like, okay. And at the time, it cost quite a bit. And I made a decision about probably like a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. I was like, I just don't want to coach people right now. I don't want to listen. I don't want to consult. You know, I don't feel the peace that I have. And I realized that it would be way more fun for me, since it's not my main source of income anyways, to just help people, literally for like the next however long I decide to. Could be 4 months, could be a year, where I literally talk to like one person a day for free for an hour. And what I realized that at some point I'm going to run out of time, because at the end of these conversations, they're usually like, can we talk again sometime? Which is endearing. It's really cool. And I'm always like, yeah, sure. Until I basically run out of space, then I know at some point I'm going to have to charge more. But it just seems like such a better way to do it. Even though I was, enjoying it before and having success and seeing clients get promotions and start rooms of their own and start to speak more, I was like, heck yeah, this is great. I have different relationships that they've always wanted. That was really cool. But I realized there's a power of time. And if I'm just constantly helping people for now, at some point I'm going to run out of time and I'll be like, okay, well, I don't have time this week really to do any free calls anymore. So maybe then I'll like start to charge again. But as of right now, I'm not really doing it.
Okay, that is you're just amazing person. I just want you to know you're an amazing person. Like your outlook of life and your perspective of things just phenomenal, and how you encounter these things is quite outstanding. And I say don't change. Just don't change where you are. If you encounter change that's through growth, then that's so be it. But you have grown into an individual who that really nice. Who
That's okay.
who has built a foundation, a strong foundation into themselves, which is good.
Again, I'll say we'll see. Over the last 2.5 weeks, I would definitely agree that I have a nice foundation. I feel that peace. I don't know what's going to happen the next time I get in a moment where my heart's beating harder. That's when we know. We don't know in the times of stillness. We know in the times where it's a little more chaotic. So I receive those compliments and others that people say, but that's where it's like, we'll see. Because we really don't know. Like, I feel good. I feel calm. We don't know who we are until those real moments show up again. Do I think I'm going to handle them better than before? Yes, I do. Do I think I'm going to be perfect? Never. Not in a million years. And I think that's the beauty of having mentors. And one of my mentors the other day, he said, I don't want you to say always or never. Because I hear people say, I'm never going to do this again. And I say it still. And he's like, and I was like, okay. I don't plan on doing that again. And I don't want to do that again. I might, but the real thing is, this is the real niche that I want people to take home with them. When you do something that you are disappointed in, or that frustrates you, or that triggers you in a certain way, your ability to get from that frustration, that guilt, that shame, that annoyance, that social isolation, whatever your shtick is, how long it takes for you to get to that point to back to normal where you're interacting with people and you're able to be in public again, you're able to be a beacon of light again for people. That is the shtick. How long does it take you? Does it take you 10 minutes to be really angry, go sit by yourself for a second, F this, F that, I'm going to be fine, let's go, reset, I'm back? Or does it take you 5 hours? Does it take you a day, or does it take you like a week where you feel like you're in a depressed state? Over a lot of times, no offense, it's usually nothing. It's our perspective on something. There's people that will make huge mistakes and laugh about it because their parents and their mentors taught them to laugh. And there's certain other people that take that, go into social isolation, and think they're the worst human being on the planet because of their parents or their mentors, or because how they were treated or how they treated themselves. So understand that is our measures when we're in moments where our heart are beating, or when we do frustrate ourselves, because it's going to happen. We're human beings. We're gonna fuck up. The amount of time it takes from you to get to that point to somewhat normal, to I've learned a little bit of the lesson from it, so I don't want to make the same mistake, into moving on, taking the lesson, understanding it, appreciating it, because it's a gift. It's always a gift. That's a different thing. It's hard to imagine that at the time sometimes. It's always a gift. There's not a wrong action that we've ever done in our life if we don't judge it. And then moving on. Leave it there. I leave the ball at the gym as much as I can. I leave my conversations that I just had with my friends or a girl or whoever. I leave it there where it belongs. Be in the present moment. I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know. But like I said, that's the goal. That's why I say the main goal that I have for my clients is they feel calm and they're able to manage those things that frustrate them and understand you've done nothing wrong. Ever. You've done a certain strategy that you thought was best to achieve the goals that were important for you and the outcomes that were important to you in that moment.
That's amazing. That is completely true as well, too, because like you never know what's happening. What's going to happen, like the split of a second, you never know. Hey, it could be a bad thing, and you have to recover. And you can recover. It's depending on how long you take to recover, but always know to recover, because you have to keep going,
Mm-hmm.
And so, is there like do you have a handle?
Oh, on Instagram? Yeah, it's just Jeremy. I think it's _ Burright. I think so. I think it's _, but it's my first and last name.
Okay. Is there any other handler?
I mean, I have Twitter that I don't really use that much, but sometimes I'm going into Twitter Spaces a little more. My Clubhouse is Jeremy.B, but you'll find my name just from typing in my name. I don't know who uses Facebook anymore. I'm just kidding. I don't really use Facebook that much, or Snapchat. Nah, it's pretty much just Instagram and Clubhouse. I used to do TikTok. I actually got up to like 60,000 followers when I was goofing around and singing. So there's some interesting, fun videos that I used to do on there. If you guys want to check that out, it was mostly just me being a goof, but that was fun.
What's your Instagram? What's your TikTok?
Well, you can type in my name, you'll find it too. But it was J.ER.M. So it's just Germ, which is something my mom called me for years, and I kind of liked it, so I kept it.
And you said you had a podcast. You want us to also put why?
Sure. I don't do it as much anymore. It was called the Jeremy Burright podcast. It used to be called Always Loading Podcast because we're always changing, which I might change the name back to that because I enjoyed the intro that I used to do. It got rated really high too. I was surprised. I didn't even know people really listened to it that much, but I might start doing that again. So if I decide I have something I really need to say, and I'm not going to say it on Clubhouse, yeah, you can look that up and I'm sure it'll be out there. So just look up Jeremy Burright and I'll make sure I put that in Always Loading if I end up changing it back to that.
And can you give us another motivational statement of your own or somebody who you are inspired?
I think the one that comes to mind is that if you never met anybody, and this is something I came up with a long time ago, but if you never met anybody that was your age, if you were the oldest person on the planet, you say you're 35 and you're the oldest person, you're the first one to be 35. Nobody would know how to feel. You're only as old as you believe you are because you've seen mentors or parents that are sick and are out of shape or annoyed or hurting or the joints are hurting or they're whatever because they didn't take care of themselves. If you were the first person who was 35 and you were jacked and sprinting 4-minute miles and doing marathons or something like that, the person that was 20 would be like, okay, sweet, I'm excited to be 35. If you were the first 50-year-old and you were running marathons and you were still at a 6-pack and you were eating well and camping and going on hikes, somebody that was 21 wouldn't look at 50 and be like, I don't want to be 50. They'd be like, dang, I'm going to feel good when I'm 50. It's all freaking perspective. And it's really annoying because people, they have these expectations of how they're going to feel when they're older because of how unhealthy America is for sure. And some other places in the world. You wouldn't know. You would not know how old to act. And it's something I started saying a lot. I realized that people treat you by how old you are in certain situations. But if you don't act old, people don't know. Like I am 31 years old, which in basketball terms is pretty old, especially in America. Overseas, it's not as much. But the organized way that I set up part of my life and how I strategically try to remove stress. For the most part, when someone meets me, they're like, how old are you, like 26? I'm like, no, that sounds nice. I'm in shape. I feel good for the most part every single day. I don't allow stress into my life, and even the people that have a little more stress naturally, I use if they aren't working on it themselves, if they're kind of just dumping, again, to challenge people is important. I'll usually literally look at them and I'll be like, how long do you plan on just trying to dump on this day or something like that? I just talk to them and be like, look, I said this is the last story I'll tell you. I was in Lithuania and I had a teammate of mine and a roommate of mine at the time sit down across from lunch with me and was just stressed, just annoyed. What's going on? He goes, what would you have done in this situation? I've been thinking about this for like 2 days. I don't know. I don't feel good about it. Here's what happened. He's like, my next door neighbor that I've known for a very long time, she wanted alcohol. She's in her 70s. She's completely out of shape. She's already been to the doctor a few times for her heart. And she's not supposed to do this because she could literally hurt herself. And she asked me to go buy her alcohol. This is like a 19-year-old kid. And he goes, I didn't know how to say no. So I took the money and I went to the store. And as I was there, I was like, this isn't right. Like, I'm not going to help somebody hurt themselves. I'm not going to help somebody feel bad, or maybe have to go to the doctor, or maybe get sick, really sick. And so he didn't buy the alcohol. And when he went back, he lied to her and said, I didn't bring my ID. I lost it. I'm sorry. She was really mad at him. She was yelling and she was really frustrated. So when he went back to his house, he just was constantly up in his head about it. Did I do the right thing? Should I have done this? Should I have done that? So everyone that he met over the next 2 days, his family, his girlfriend, himself, people that he trusted and wanted to ask, was the only thing he brought up. And I remember I was sitting there listening, and I was kind of just like, because his girlfriend was mad at him. His mom wasn't very happy with him. And I said, you know why? I said, I'm going to tell you this first. Before I tell you what I thought was right or wrong, whatever. Do you know why they're upset with you right now? Or why your girlfriend's annoyed? And he's just like, I don't know. What do you think? I said, because you're not present with her. You're still holding on to something that happened yesterday, because it happened 2 days ago. And so then the following day, his girlfriend was annoyed. I said, you're holding on to something that happened the day before, and that's all you're talking about, and you're kind of just up in your own head, and you're not paying attention to her, you're not talking to her, like you're literally just complaining because you weren't sure what decision did you want to make, blah, blah, blah. I was like, you're not presenting yourself as your best version because you're stuck in the past. I appreciate the fact that you want to reflect. I appreciate the fact that you want to figure out how you want to feel. Ask yourself those questions for long enough in the morning until you kind of know what you think. So then when you do ask somebody else, you're like, hey, what do you think about this? And you're not coming from a place of, oh gosh, I don't know. I feel like I should have done that. Like, stop talking to people before you haven't tried to heal yourself first. Because you're not showing up as your best version of yourself. You're still judging yourself, which is just, number one, it's not attractive. But number one, it's like, or number two, it's just a negative energy you're throwing into someone's life. Because you're still judging what you did yesterday or the day before. And I was like, you've walked past countless amounts of people and you have a business or you're trying to develop one. Part of that is making connections. So if you're living life stressed or annoyed or on this like lower energy plane, you're not going to make the impression that you want to, even with people that already know you. Because it's still their choice if they want to spend time with you or not that day, or if they want to be annoyed with you. That's up to them. Is that up to you? And so I just told him, I said, I'm your brother. I was like, I'm someone who really cares about you, but I'm also like a mentor for people. So I can handle this. There's certain people that can't handle if you come to them before you've been like, okay, I have a couple thoughts on this already. I think I know what I did. I think I know what I wanted to do. I'm pretty much okay with it, but I just want to know your thoughts just so I don't make the same mistake in the future. I respect you. So I'm curious to know what you think. Like, that's going to come from a place where they're going to be like, okay, you respect my opinion. Right? Let's hear it. Versus like, almost like backing off from you and like, you good? Like, they're going to ask different questions if you haven't healed yourself. Hurt people hurt people. Frustrated people can frustrate other people. Stressed out people
definitely stress out other people. Which is why I say, like, that's the big goal. Learn how you work, learn how you operate, learn how to be there for yourself and your own best advocate, to where when you do ask for help, it comes from a place of, I kind of have an idea. What do you think? It's not going to do the same thing to other people. It's not going to impact people in a negative way that are already in your life and love you for a reason. That's probably the last thing I'd say.
That's a really great message to the audience and to the speaker as well. So that's really good. And we TTIN would love to thank you, Jeremy. Can you say your whole name, please?
Jeremy Burright.
Jeremy Burright. Thank you so much for just allowing us to captivate you now, because the time is now to see that your perspective may be different according to whomsoever you encounter. So don't just think about the negative aspects, because you're going to encounter good and bad. Just put it in the middle and see how you go about that life and so forth. And we at TTIN would love to thank you, Jeremy, and hopefully within 5 to 10 years we can have you back to see how you're doing and so forth. But TTIN is now we're officially connected. We would love to, like, if you ever wish to come back on, just tell us about some inspirational things. We would love to have you. Don't hesitate to ask us. We would love to have you. And we'll also say thank you once more for just allowing us to captivate you now. The time is now to make a difference.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Your energy is great, and so it's very nice to be around people like yourself. And whoever's been listening to you, they've probably been getting that same feeling. So it's been really nice to meet you. It'll be nice to meet your community, and anybody in your community. Like I said, I have this rule right now. They can reach out to me on Instagram, and I'm going to send them my number immediately, and they can call me and we can talk about anything. Literally anything. I've talked about some interesting parts of people's lives, but that's what I want to do right now. I'm going to play basketball and listen to people and challenge them and point things out to them and care about them in a different manner. But just understand that, like, that's real. And it doesn't really matter what time it is. It's just, sure, let's talk.
That's great. So audience here is available to, like, hear and talk to you and, play basketball and listen to you. So that's two good things.